Life is full of changes, and there is always a balance between holding on and letting go. But when something ends, like a relationship, a dream, or even a stage of life, it's easy to hold on to the past out of fear for what the future holds. The Stoic philosophers had a deep understanding of this battle. They taught us that life isn't about fighting what happens, but about accepting it with grace and understanding. Today, we'll look at one of the hardest but most liberating lessons in life. Letting it end, letting it hurt, letting it heal, and let it go, using the classic teachings of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. If you've ever had trouble moving on, this message is for you. Keep watching this video. By the end, you'll have the tools and mindset to handle the changes that will happen in your life with strength and resilience. Lesson number 1. Let it end. Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. Marcus Aurelius said in his Meditations, "Do this with all your heart." In order to move forward, the first step is to acknowledge when something has reached its conclusion. Oftentimes, we are resistant to endings because they make us feel like we have failed or lost. In contrast, the Stoic philosophy maintains that endings are neither good nor evil. Rather, they are simply what they are. For example, the setting of the sun or the changing of the seasons are both examples of natural occurrences that occur in life. Keeping anything that has passed its expiration date will simply make your sorrow last longer. Let it end now. Consider it to be no different than the conclusion of a chapter in a book. You should acknowledge it, be grateful for the lessons it taught you, and get ready for the next one. In his letter titled On the Shortness of Life, Seneca brought to our attention the fact that clinging to the past causes us to miss out on the present. In his writing he stated, "You behave like mortals in everything that you fear, and like immortals in everything that you desire." In what way does this imply? It indicates that we waste our valuable time by being afraid of change, as if we have an infinite amount of time to spend in an uncertain state of mind. On the other hand, life happens, and we have to move along with it. It is not an act of defeat to allow something to come to an end. This is a brave act of courage. Stopping yourself from clinging to something that is no longer beneficial to you requires a lot of strength. Whether it's a poisonous relationship, an unrealized desire, or even a mindset that keeps you stuck, it's all right to end that chapter. It's good to move on. Take into consideration the fact that every conclusion offers the opportunity for a fresh start. This does not mean that there is no more light in the world once the sun has set. Simply put, it is getting ready for a fresh start. In the same vein, the conclusion of your life is not the end. Rather, it is the beginning of something new and the beginning of something greater. The question you should ask yourself is, what are you clinging to that has reached its logical conclusion? Imagine what it would be like to let go of it and let it come to an end. Please take a moment to inhale deeply and remind yourself that endings are not your adversary. The rhythm of life is influenced by them in some way. When you let go of things that are no longer beneficial to you, you are showing respect for the natural flow of life and making place for something new to develop. Lesson number 2. The power of acceptance. Epictetus, the great Stoic instructor, advises us that we should make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. We have a tendency to resist, to oppose reality in an effort to exert control over something that we are unable to control when something comes to an end. This resistance, however, simply serves to amplify our suffering. On the other hand, acceptance is empowering. By doing so, you are able to stop fighting against what is unavoidable and begin discovering serenity in the here and now. Pause for a moment and think about what it is that you are holding to that is beyond your ability to control. If you were to simply accept it in its current state, what would happen? The key to freedom is being able to accept it. Over the course of his writings, Seneca elaborates on this concept, advising us to refrain from wasting our energy on conditions that we are unable to alter. According to what he said, we suffer more frequently in our imaginations than real life. The majority of the suffering that we experience as a result of endings is not a result of the event itself, but rather of our inability to accept it. In our imaginations, we play out countless situations, all the while wishing for different ends, in the vain hope that we may somehow, through sheer effort, alter the pages of history. On the other hand, the truth is that the past is over. From this point forward, the only thing that is under your control is how you react to it. Acceptance is not the same thing as approval. It does not mean that you are content with what has transpired. To put it simply, it indicates that you are no longer struggling against the truth. This is how you should think about it. Picture yourself being swept away by a powerful river current. One option is to fight against the flow, which will cause you to become exhausted. Another option is to stop struggling and let the stream to carry you. If you are willing to acknowledge the fact that the river is there, you will be able to save your energy and concentrate on finding a means to navigate it. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wonderfully reflects this notion, saying, you have power over your mind, not based on events that occur outside of yourself. Recognize this, and you will discover the strength you need. That fortitude is acceptance. It is a choice to shift your focus from fighting against something that cannot be changed to developing the ability to withstand whatever comes after it. It is important to ask yourself, what would happen if you decided to stop opposing reality and accept it in its current state? Can you imagine how much lighter your heart would feel if you let go of the need to control something that you have no control over? Acceptance is not a decision that is made once and then forgotten. Rather, it is a habit that requires a daily commitment to connect oneself with what is, rather than what may have been. In addition, the more you engage in this activity, the more liberated and at ease you will feel. Lesson number 3. Let it hurt. This is a quote from Seneca, who reportedly asked, "What is the need to weep over parts of life?" To put it simply, it is enough to make one cry. Pain was something that Stoics did not shy away from, since they recognized it as an essential component of life. The act of letting go is painful, since it represents a loss. But discomfort is not the adversary. Someone is a teacher. It's a clear indication that the things you're leaving behind were important to you. The simple fact that you are experiencing agony is evidence that you have sincerely loved, dreamed, or cared for someone. Give yourself permission to grieve. In the absence of judgment, feel the anguish. If you feel the urge to, cry. Discuss your ideas with a close friend or jot them down on paper. In the same way that a storm will eventually pass, this period of pain will also eventually pass. Bear in mind that although the pain itself is only brief, the lessons that it teaches might endure a lifetime. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in Meditations that our perceptions are directly related to the misery that we experience. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but rather to your estimation of it, and this is something that you have the ability to revoke at any moment. It is necessary for us to first give ourselves permission to feel before we can attempt to alter our perspective. Epictetus highlighted the need of facing obstacles and setbacks with clarity, saying, "It is not what happens to you that matters. What matters is how you react to it." It is not the same thing as rejecting the existence of suffering. Rather, it is the act of accepting it as a natural reaction to change. Allow yourself some time to process. Maintain a notebook in which you record your emotions. You should talk to a reliable buddy who is willing to lend you an ear to listen. Allow yourself to be accompanied by your suffering, not as an adversary, but as a friend who can impart knowledge to you. It is important to keep in mind that just as a storm will eventually pass, so will this time of suffering. This is the beauty of suffering. It has the power to transform. Your understanding of life, of yourself, and of the things that are genuinely important changes as a result of this. Despite the fact that pain is only fleeting, the lessons that it teaches can endure a lifetime. The human heart is a good example. It is susceptible to both breaking and mending, despite its strength and vulnerability. In the process of allowing ourselves to experience pain, we create space for personal development, wisdom, and resilience. Seneca argued that the spirit should be preparing itself for difficult times during times of security. While fortune is bestowing favors on it, then is the time for it to be strengthened against her rebuffs. This is a quote from Seneca. Your current suffering will serve as the basis for your abilities in the future. Having faith that it will not define you, but rather refine you, is essential. Lesson number 4. The healing process. The Stoics encourage us to be patient with ourselves during this process because healing is not a linear process. In his advice, Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind. You do not have control over external events." When you come to terms with this, you will discover your strength. Within is where healing begins. In order to rebuild, you need take baby steps every day. Make room in your life for activities that promote self-care, such as keeping a journal, practicing meditation, or spending time in nature. It is important to surround yourself with people who are helpful, but you should also give yourself time to be alone so that you may examine yourself and get in touch with your true self. It is important to keep in mind that forgetting what occurred is not the goal. Learning to cohabit with your history in a manner that does not control your present is the goal of this technique. Writing in a journal can be an effective method for gaining insight into oneself. Regardless of how jumbled or fragmented your ideas and emotions may appear, you should feel comfortable to write about them. It is not about constructing sentences that are faultless. Rather, it is about showing that you are expressing your feelings. Discovering truths about yourself that were buried under the surface may be possible if you find clarity in your own words. Meditation is yet another method for re-establishing a connection with oneself. In the Stoic tradition, a sort of meditation known as premeditatio malorum was practiced. This type of meditation involves anticipating upcoming difficulties. Through the practice of calmly thinking on the challenges that life presents, they prepared their brains to meet those challenges with resilience. Through the use of this exercise, you can bring yourself back to center by concentrating on your breath and finding acceptance in the here and now. The natural world also has a way of calming the spirit for some people. Take a stroll through the woods. Allow the sensation of the earth beneath your feet remind you of the globe's ongoing cycles of transformation and revitalization, and let the world remind you of these things. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. Epictetus said, "People are disturbed not by things." When we are locked in our pain, nature makes it easier for us to adjust our viewpoint and see the bigger picture. Learning to value moments of solitude is an important part of healing. It is not enough to simply surround yourself with people who are supportive of you. It is crucial to strike this equilibrium. Spending time by yourself can facilitate a reconnection with your inner self and provide you with the opportunity to contemplate without interruptions from the outside world. You will be able to begin to realize your power and perseverance for the first time in these times of silence. It is important to keep in mind that healing does not mean forgetting what did occur. Refusing to acknowledge your experiences or forgetting your past is not the point. The focus should be on developing the ability to coexist with your memories in a manner that does not influence your present. Your scars are not signs of weakness. Rather, they are illustrations of your growth and perseverance. A quote attributed to Seneca states that the man who is poor is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. The same may be said about the healing process. This can leave you feeling disappointed if you have a desire for fast recovery or for your approach to be perfect. On the other hand, if you make it a point to concentrate on each meaningful and modest step forward, you will discover that healing occurs spontaneously and in its own time. Lesson number 5. Let it go. A piece of advice that Seneca offered was, do not let the past steal your present. Letting go does not include wiping away memories or acting as if something never happened. In other words, it means letting go of the emotional hold that the past has on you and allowing yourself to fully immerse yourself in the activities of the current moment. Like an analogy, think of it like untying a knot. At first it appears to be impossible. It is knotted and resistance-based. On the other hand, if you are patient and have intention, the tension will fade away, and all of a sudden you will be free. There is no disappearance of the knot. Nonetheless, it is no longer a binding force. This does not mean that you are giving up when you let go. By making this decision, you are opting for tranquility over suffering, liberty over resentment, and forward movement over stagnation. Letting go is a gift that you give to yourself. It is a choice to choose your own well-being over clinging to something that is no longer useful. Frequently, the Stoics highlighted the transience of life and the necessity of letting go of attachment to things that are beyond our ability to control. The teachings of Epictetus include the following. When you are offended at the fault of any man, turn to yourself and study your own failed attempts. After that, you will immediately forget your rage. One of the most important aspects of letting go is coming to terms with the fact that harboring bitterness, regret, or anxiety is detrimental to themselves alone. Consider the following question. What is one thing that you can let go of today? It is not necessary for it to be everything at the same time. Make a modest beginning. Perhaps you have a grudge against someone that you've been harboring for a long time. Could it be that you feel guilty over a choice you made a very long time ago? If that is not the case, perhaps it is the anxiety of an unclear future. Letting go is not a single moment, but rather a process that comes over time. Until you find your hands and your heart free again, it is about gradually releasing your hold on things until you find them. Imagine that you are literally releasing whatever it is that is weighing you down, such as letting a lantern float on the water or seeing it ascend into the moonlit sky. You have been made by nature for the purpose of bearing and enduring. Therefore, bear and endure, according to Marcus Aurelius, who shares this insight. However, you should also be aware that it is within your ability to let go of the things that are weighing you down. As you let go, you create space for new opportunities to present themselves. You eliminate the obstacles that stand in the way of progress, joy, and hope. You make it possible for yourself to emerge from the darkness of the distant past and into the bright brightness of the present moment. Lesson number 6. Why letting go is a gift to yourself. Letting go is one of the most valuable things you can give to yourself. It makes room for new experiences, new connections, and a revitalized sense of purpose, all of which were before unavailable. Through the process of letting go of the burdens of the past, you create space for the future to emerge in ways that you could never have anticipated. According to a quote attributed to Marcus Aurelius, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." It is important to remember that life is always changing, and when you let go, you bring yourself into alignment with the natural flow of existence. You let go of your attachment to the past, and instead make room in your heart for the future. In the same way that trees lose their leaves in the fall to create room for new growth in the spring, having the ability to let go empowers you to bloom. It is important to keep in mind that you are deserving of freedom, free from the constraints of the past, and free to embrace the opportunities that lie ahead. Similar words of wisdom were supplied by Seneca in his thoughts, which were as follows: "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." You can live fully in the present by letting go of your past. Every new day presents an opportunity to begin anew, free from the load of the previous day's responsibilities. Consider the following. If you continue to cling to feelings of anguish, regret, or fear, you will remain bound to a version of yourself that is no longer beneficial to you. When you let go, you are honoring your own growth. It is okay for you to go on and develop into something more significant, as you have acknowledged. Consider the following question. If you were to fully accept this gift, how would your life be different? In what ways would you feel lighter if you did not have to carry the luggage that you have been carrying? Letting go only alters the function that your history plays in your life. It does not eradicate it. From being a burden on your shoulders, it transforms into a stepping stone that you can use beneath your feet. The Stoics held the belief that the mind is the starting point for freedom. Epictetus is credited with saying, "No man is free because he is not master of himself." Regaining control of your life is possible when you let go of things. You make the decision to let go of things that aren't beneficial to you and to welcome things that are. Self-compassion is demonstrated by letting go. Simply put, it is a means of telling yourself, "I am deserving of calm. I am deserving of happiness. I have earned the right to proceed." By letting go of the past, you are not dislodging yourself from the present or the future. Rather, you are honoring both of these. Lesson number 7. Finding strength in letting go. If you want to let go, you need to find the strength to go forward into the future. Letting go is not just about saying goodbye to the past. your independence, your tranquility, and your power are all things that you need to regain. It is not that you are losing something when you let go of things that are no longer beneficial to you. Rather, you are making room for new things, fresh possibilities, fresh points of view, and fresh opportunities for progress are all available. As Marcus Aurelius put it, you have power over your mind. You do not have control over external events. When you come to terms with this, you will discover your strength. A mental shift, a purposeful decision to cease holding to something that you cannot control, is what letting go genuinely entails. You have the opportunity to choose how you will respond, how you will heal, and how you will go forward when you let go. This is a reminder of what is within your power. Take into consideration that you are a traveler who is on a trip. The first thing you do is pack your backpack with things that you believed you would require, such as memories, expectations, regrets, and worries. On the other hand, as you progress, you become aware that some of these things are causing you to feel burdened. Each step is made more difficult, and each breath is made more difficult. As you go toward your goals, you will find that you need to let go of things that aren't necessary more and more. Letting go is not a sign of weakness. Indeed, it requires an extraordinary amount of bravery. Leaving aside things that are no longer a part of your life requires a certain amount of strength and the ability to trust yourself enough to do so. Throughout their writings, the Stoics frequently highlighted the concept of inner resilience. The words of Seneca can be found in the following passage: "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." Giving yourself permission to fully enjoy the present is a gift of unfathomable power, and it is something you can give yourself by letting go of the past. Find out what burdens you are bearing right now that are no longer beneficial to you by asking yourself this question. Is it indignation? Do you feel sad? Who is afraid of failing? For even a brief period of time, try to picture what it would be like to let go of that burden. What would be the difference in your weight? Imagine how much more liberated your thoughts would feel. Letting go does not entail ignoring what has occurred. The term transforming your relationship with it describes what it implies. Instead of viewing the past as a series of events, attempt to view it as a lesson. Think of the pain you experience as evidence of your ability to persevere and develop, rather than as something you should want to avoid. It is not what happens to you that matters. What matters is how you react to it, Epictetus once explained. You are more powerful than you give him credit for. The more you choose to let go of the things that are preventing you from moving forward, the more strength you will acquire. You are able to demonstrate to yourself that you are not defined by your history, but rather by the way in which you have overcome it. When you take control of your own life and shape it with intention and bravery, you become the architect of your own life. Now is the moment to take action on the situation. The question is, what is one thing that you can discharge today? It is not necessary for everything to happen all at once. Healing and letting go are processes that take place gradually. Perhaps you begin by seeking forgiveness from someone who has wronged you. It is possible that you let go of self-criticism and use self-compassion as a substitute. There is also the possibility that you have abandoned a goal that is no longer congruent with who you have become. There is something fundamental that you will become aware of as you let go. When the weight is lifted, A steadying of your breath occurs. As you walk, your steps get lighter. The responsibilities of the past, which had previously obscured the way forward, are beginning to become more obvious. As a result of letting go, not only does your mind undergo a transformation, but your entire existence does as well. It is a sign of trust in life to let go. Put an end to it. Let it to hurt. Allow it to heal. And then let it go. A lighter heart, a clearer mind, and a revitalized sense of purpose are the outcomes that result from each stage, despite the fact that it is challenging. It is important to remember that the Stoics remind us that life is not about avoiding pain, but rather about accepting it as a natural and inevitable part of that experience. I am appreciative of your presence. Always keep in mind that beneath every conclusion lies the germ of a fresh start. I will see you in the next video, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Simply click the subscribe button, and together we will tackle this journey of maturation, resiliency, and illumination.